From the Buford City Arena in Metro Atlanta, it's the 2018 GHSA Class 7A Boys State Basketball Tournament, the semifinals from Metro Atlanta, where today it's the Norcross Blue Devils and the Newton Rams. And hello again, everybody. Thanks for joining us right back here on the NFHS Network, and for those of you that are joining us on Facebook as well, for NFHS Network Hoops on Facebook. Back alongside my broadcast partner, Brandon Joseph. I'm yours truly, Chris Mooneyham. Brandon, to say this is a big-time matchup in the state of Georgia, of course, would be an understatement. Two of the favorites now to win the state championship. Some people are dubbing this the state championship. That's not fair to Grayson and Meadow Creek, who we'll see in the 8 p.m. game tonight on Facebook and the NFHS Network, of course. Either of those teams could beat either of these teams. However, both of these teams incredibly stout. Star-studded lineup on both sides. A lot of future next-level talent, whether it be in football, for some cases, in the case of Dre Butler, but a lot of Division I basketball talent on both sides of the ball. You see on your screen the Newton Rams, 18 wins in a row, a 27-3 record. Won their third consecutive region championship this year and a 9-1 record inside of Region 8. Outscoring their opponents 79-61 per ball game and led by 20-year Newton man Rick Rasmussen. Coach Raz in his 13th season at the helm of the program. Now over to Norcross, who will be the who you saw just a moment ago. We'll go back over to Norcross, who's the visiting team in this ball game, and we'll go through their team introductions. Norcross 11 wins in a row, 27-3 overall. 11-1 they finished inside of Region 7 in the 7A classification. And they've outscored their opponents by 16 per ball game so far this year, 72-56. Jesse McMillan is their head coach. He's one of the best in the state of Georgia, highly decorated, and he leads one of the great programs in the state of Georgia. He won state titles here in 2011 and 13, and he's also led them to 2 state semifinals and a couple of quarterfinals as well. Your starters for the Norcross Blue Devils: Issa Muhammad, Kyle Sturdivant, Joseph Toppin, Brandon Boston, Dalvin White. What should we expect? Kyle Sturdivant, Brandon Boston, the two mainstays of this Norcross Blue Devils team. They will be going for it. They score 71.8 points a game. That may not be enough tonight as we head over to the Newton Rams. And Newton, as we mentioned, also 27-3 and an 18-game winning streak. Coach Rasmussen, that's where we left off a moment ago as we meet their starters. 20 years at Newton, 13 as a head coach. He's won 76% of his games. They've won 5 region titles under his tutelage, 3 Final Fours. He's a 5-time region coach of the year, but this is the year they feel like is the pop year, that they finally get to that state championship game. Their starting lineup of Ashton Higgins, Juwan Johnson, Tyrese Brown, Armani Harris, and DeAndre Butler. Yeah, Ashton Higgins, of course, is the pulse of this Newton Rams team. Leads them in all major categories, but as we get into the keys of the game, he can't just be the one-man show tonight. Last year, Newton reached their 4th semifinal in a 14-year stretch, and they lost to Tift County in the quarterfinals. Keys to the ball game. Norcross, they need to have solid defense. Ashton Higgins and this Newton Rams team, almost 79 points a game. They've scored 80-plus 13 times this season. And Norcross, they need to rebound the ball. Their leading rebounder is Issa Muhammad, 7.2 rebounds per game, and he hasn't started all year, so he's coming on strong. As he grabs the ball and he gets rebounds, that will be the key for Norcross, for Newton. They can't be that one-man band. They can't just rely on Ashton Higgins. They need somebody else. Tyrese Brown, Dre Butler going to have to step up, and they're going to have to capitalize from the free throw line. Rick Rasmussen say they shoot 75% from free throws. They need to do better tonight when they get the opportunity to get those free points. Newton Rams donning the white-based uniforms with the blue numbers in trim. And Norcross, as the visiting team designate, donning their dark silver, almost a brush metal type color, with their dark navy blue. And Norcross with the opening possession of the ball game. Those of you joining us on Facebook, remember this is a completely interactive broadcast. You can join us in the comments section. Let us know who you will think will win today's ball game. Norcross has played in 7 of the last 13 state title games. in the state's highest classification. Straightaway three, rims in and out for Dalvin White. Newton the rebound, will head back the other way. Tried for the tight window, couldn't get it fit in there. And now attacking the rim is Ashton Hagans. It heads out of bounds and we'll go back the other way.
Norcross with three guards on the floor as they're listed in Dalvin White, Brandon Boston, and Kyle Sturdivant. Dalvin White will bring the ball up a lot from set plays, but in transition, Sturdivant and Boston will equally share time running point for this Norcross team, and those two guys are big enough to be forwards also.
Three from the wing is good for Brandon Boston, the sophomore guard at 6'5", who averages 15.3 or 15.8 points per ball game. He'll get you 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and leads the club in steals per affair at 1.6. That's Boston, 11 in silver. Turnaround, free throw line jumper, back iron, and no good for Amarni Harris. And Norcross tries to break. Push, dish, baseline drive, sent away. A rejection from Dre Butler. 23 in white. DeAndre Butler will be playing college football coming up next year for the Mocs of UTC. Or as they like to be called now, Brandon, just Chattanooga. You know that, right?
Yeah, they dropped the University of Tennessee.
Sturdivant, Kyle Sturdivant. Lost the handle, had it poked away from behind as well. Juwan Johnson gives off to a teammate. Tyrese Brown can't hit. Now down low underneath, and another attempt up and in. Juwan Johnson. He'll get you 4.5 points per ball game, nearly 3 rebounds, 51% from the field. Not the biggest guy, but he likes to attack at a senior at 6'3". Spends a lot of time around the rim. That's why he's got that 51% field goal percentage.
And Newton was forced to do something that they don't normally like to do. They like to play that transition game with Ashton Hagans holding the ball and making things happen. Well, Norcross has been very key on taking the ball away from Hagans in the start of this contest.
Sturdivant in the paint, dish off to a teammate who slams it home. Joseph Toppin, the senior forward, 6'6". Joseph leads the team in blocks per ball game at 1.8. He'll also get you 11 points per affair. 5-2 Norcross lead. Deep jumper just inside the three-point line, no good. Offensive rebound careens to a Newton man. And Norcross ends up with it on a break. Dalvin White off to a teammate. Muhammad comes flying in and lays it in. Isu Muhammad, in many ways, Brendan Joseph, has been the key to Newton's success, Norcross's success in 2017-18. His emergence, he's not started or played the entire season, but he's played enough to qualify to be the team's rebounding leader at 7.2 rebounds per ball game. And when that happened, when he became an integral part of the process for Norcross, is when they really took off.
And for Issa Muhammad, this is what he does on the scoring end. He can get you 6.3 points a game, but as you mentioned, those 7.2 rebounds per game of Muhammad. And when you have a team that can score a lot and has a lot of weapons like Norcross does, well, you need somebody to get the rebounds on the defensive end and really surefire that defensive side of the ball. And that's what Muhammad has done, getting the ball down, getting the ball out, and to those guards who can create.
Versus McEachern in the state quarterfinals, Muhammad went for 14 points, 15 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 2 assists. And a three's banked in. Dre Butler banks in a 3 and gets us to 7-5. Norcross out in front.
And what Norcross is doing defensively is they're going with a zone, a 2-3 zone. The first time up the ball as Hagan steals, and this is what Ashton Hagan does, finishes at the rim. Norcross showed a box in 1, but then dropped it into a 2-3 zone. They're going to make Newton shoot the ball and shoot Norcross out of their defensive zone.
His Sturdivant.
And that's just a route jump by Ashton Hagans, finishing at the rim. That's what he does. He's so skilled, so athletic that if you're not paying attention, and he has a distinct advantage, and that's what he just stepped in front of the route.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Didn't they just call the foul on Muhammad and blow the play dead? They just announced over the loudspeaker that
I think the referee signaled wrong. He meant to say 0 in white, and that would be Ashton Hagans, his first foul.
Well, Muhammad, I think that would be correct. And we'll have to keep track of that, by the way, and make sure the foul did not go on Muhammad. That will be a big moment in the ball game, or a developing storyline throughout the ball game, no matter which zero it's on, by the way. And now Muhammad to the line. 6.3 points per ball game. We mentioned that he goes for 7.2 rebounds per affair. He'll get you in a half of an assist per ball game. Just 1 block per ball game. Junior at 6'9". McEachern taking out the team that appeared to be the bona fide champ. Seth Weinstock checks in. Yes, indeed, Ashton Hagans is quite the problem. According to some, the number 1 point guard in the United States. Thanks, Seth, for joining us in the conversation.
Lazy
Make
pass.
sure you do the same on Facebook. Oh, wow, Brandon. Oh, wow, BJ.
That is what Brandon Boston does. You saw that athletic ability, stayed with the ball, intercepted a lazy pass, and this is what Norcross is doing. They're intercepting the lazy pass from Newton, air-mailed out of bounds, but Norcross right now living it up defensively, a 3-2 zone that Newton's having all trouble trying to break. And when you're in that zone, you got to be sure what your pass is. And Brandon Boston did a great job of staying with the ball. Incidental contact off the foot. Referee does not call a kickball. Boston stays with the ball and lays it in for the Blue Devils.
Boston at 5.
Boston has 5 points.
Yep.
In the first 5 minutes of this game.
Leading all scorers. One man we'll watch in this ball game. We spent some time talking about Issa Muhammad and how important he'll be. Brandon Boston will be as well. We just got a shot of him. And then, of course, Seth was joining us on Facebook in the conversation spot and brought up Ashton Hagans, who some people believe is the number 1 point guard in America for 2019. He, number 0, right there in the middle of your screen in the Newton white and blue, averaging 20 points per ball game, 11 assists per ball game, 8 rebounds nearly. He'll get you 3.5 steals per ball game. He is some kind of player. Again, 20, 11, 8, and 3.5. Over 30 major Division I offers. In fact, after their win versus McEachern earlier in the week, Brandon, Georgetown and Marquette were both there watching the affair and offered him on the spot. Well, you can't go wrong with an education at Georgetown or Marquette.
And to be coached at Georgetown by the great Patrick Ewing.
Never heard of him.
Ashton Hagans has a wealth of riches. He has good problems in opening up his recruiting. Schools like Florida State, Ohio State, everybody's really in on him, and he has not ruled out recommitting to UGA, which is something that he felt he needed to explore all options. Right. And for Ashton Hagans, he's going to be an instant starter at the next level. It's just where does he want to play his collegiate basketball?
Interestingly, for Newton, with all of this success, their 27 wins and now a state semifinal appearance, 2 free throws knocked down by Dre Butler. Hagans, the only returning starter from last year's 28-win team that fell to Tift County, the eventual state champions, in the quarterfinals. Toppin, Joseph. Oh, great up and under move. Joseph Toppin with a tremendous up and under move. The senior at 6'6", go forward. He'll give you 11 points per ball game, 4.5 rebounds, an assist. And as I mentioned a little earlier in the ball game, he leads their team in blocks per ball game at nearly 2. (14-9) with Norcross out in front. Kickball.
By keeping Brandon Boston in the middle, he's essentially in the lane that Ashton Hagans likes to bring the ball up the court. He's a very long defender. Makes it really tough for Hagans to make clear passes.
Butler tries the jumper, can't hit. Rebound pulled away by Trey Clark, who's checked into the ball game. Now down underneath and up and in for Butler. Dre Butler's been very, very active here early on, Brandon.
And Dre Butler, 14.1 points a game, and he gets a lot of those points on passes from Ashton Hagans. That's what he does. Ashton Hagans does not just pass the pass. He passes to shoot, and he gets a lot of other players' points, and that's why he leads the team with 10.7 assists per game.
And Dre also will get 6.6 rebounds per ball game. He gets a lot of his points from there as well, 62% from the field. Deep three. No good. We head back the other way.
Nice ball fake. Drives the lane, but they got to finish at the rim. First drive attempt from Newton. Hasn't been able to get inside that Norcross zone. When you have the ability to get inside, when you're able to drive on that zone, you have to finish at the rim.
Norcross now 1 for 5 on 3-ball attempts. Made their first and haven't hit one since. And then Tyrese Brown answers, knocking down one of his own. Tyrese Brown, the junior guard at 5'10", Brandon, 45% from beyond the arc. 45%, a really solid number at the high school level. Norcross with another 3-ball attempt that's no good for Dalvin White. Push. Here's Higgins. Ashton tries to give off to Dre. Tried to feed it past the defender, not quite. Good job of getting hands in the passing lane. Brandon Boston.
Brandon Boston is doing a great job of really staying around Ashton Higgins.
Armani Harris, 9.7 points per ball game, 6.2 rebounds. Nearly 2 blocks per ball game. A junior forward.
Norcross has done a great job defensively. They just can't score on the offensive end. A lot of long shots, a lot of low percentage shots. They're not converting, and that's why Newton has the advantage.
Their first lead of the ball game. Oh, by the way, 16-14 by my count. That correct? 16-14, first Newton lead, I think. Yeah. Certainly their first lead in quite some time, if not. But by my count, that is, in fact, their first lead of the ball game. Newton trying to pull the double dip. The Newton Lady Rams. 5-second call. Great defense there by Norcross. I'm sorry, by Newton. The Newton Lady Rams pulled off one for the ages. I try not to be hyperbolic as a play-by-play man, but well, if you didn't see our first ball game of the day here in Buford, the first of the girls' games as well, it looked like McEachern was going to run away from Newton with a 16-point lead at the half. Lady Rams came screaming back for a dominant second half and punched their ticket to the state championship game. Now the boys on your screen right now trying to pull the double dip for the kids from Covington.
Newton on their last possession tried their first drive attempt with Higgins off of a screen and roll. Be interesting to see as we move to the second quarter if they try more of that to get Norcross out of zone and if they can get penetration.
Dalvin, 3 off iron, no good, and the rebound pulled away for Newton. End of one here at the Buford City Arena in North Metro Atlanta. You're watching live coverage of the GHSA basketball semifinals on the NFHS Network and NFHS Network Hoops on Facebook. NFHSnetwork.com/GHSA, your destination for the most comprehensive coverage of Georgia high school playoff action. High school sports fans, remember, you never have to miss another game. Become a subscriber to the NFHS Network to watch live event coverage, game replays, highlights from high school sporting events from all across the country. Millions of athletes, thousands of games, one destination. NFHSnetwork.com. We are high school. Time to take a look at some of the highlights from quarter number one.
Yeah, and for Norcross, they got it started early. It was Kyle Sturtevant with the inside dish to JoJo Toppin, and that was the first points of the game. Norcross did very well at the beginning of the first quarter of getting to the rim and laying the ball in, but then late shots from far out, not able to convert in them low percentage shots. Ashton Higgins, on the other hand, for Newton, really got them going late in the first quarter, and that's how Newton has the advantage. They stuck with it, and they have not necessarily shot Norcross out of the zone, but they've done a good job defensively with low percentage shots from Norcross.
Trey Clark, nearly 9 points per ball game, 46% from the field. You got to go look at why as he knocks down the three-point bucket. Now all of a sudden, Newton with a 7-point lead.
Norcross whistle for the travel here. Brandon Boston, a little bit of just trying too much. Norcross games with those bigger guards are get inside. They don't like to shoot a lot of threes. They're not very skilled at doing that. They get a lot of their points in bulk on the inside.
Yeah, you and I, we cover a lot of high school and a lot of college athletics in the state of Georgia and beyond, but especially here in the Empire State of the South. I'll tell you something, Brandon, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, is Butler throws up a jumper that's no good. That's not quite his game. He can make that shot, but they don't always want him shooting from about 1.5 feet inside of the arc. And one of his teammates was barking at him, by the way, as they came down the court. 7:05 mark, second quarter, 7-point game. Newton out in front of Norcross. The Conyers, Covington, that entire Rockdale County area, they're experiencing a little bit of an athletic resurgence. More people seem to be moving into that county, moving into those areas, and you're starting to see a little resurgence out of some of their athletic programs in the varying sports. Oh, my. Beautiful, beautiful stroke from Brandon Boston, who knocks down the three. 21-17.
NCAA is talking about moving the three-point line back a little bit further. Brandon Boston doesn't care where the three-point line is. That's good from.
Nice look. Nice look and dish down low. Hagens with a great idea off to his teammate Trey Clark, but Trey couldn't quite finish. Boston. White. Off to Caleb Murphy, who's checked in. Boston tries for another back iron, no good. And Newton will have it back.
And this is a little bit of a rut that Norcross has been getting in. Long three attempts. They're going to have to stand defensively. And I guess we did have a whistle. We just couldn't hear it. Here, a very raucous crowd.
Yeah, this place is really filled in, hasn't it?
But Issa Muhammad will pick up his second foul.
Fans, continue to stay interactive with us here on Facebook. If you're on site right now and you're joining us on Facebook, you're inside this beautiful marvel that is the Beaufort City Arena. Where are you watching us from? Let us know. We'll give you a shout out during the broadcast. Whatever you do, don't do as we had one time, please. I'm begging you. Take a picture of me from behind at the score.
Please
at the
do
scores
that.
table. No, don't do that, please. I thought it was hilarious. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Three ball, deep goes. Kavon Eskridge. Eskridge, who contributes as a sophomore for the tune of 5 points per ball game and 3 rebounds, knocks home a three. And now Newton's lead is down to 22-20.
And you're seeing just about the depth of Norcross's bench. They really only play 2 guys off of the bench, and Etheridge is one of them.
Harris knocked down the bucket on the offensive end for Newton. Look at Boston streaking to the rack and drawing the deuce. Brandon Boston starting to take over. I'm going to get you an updated. We're going to get you an updated.
10 points already for Brandon Boston.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Right on top of it.
He's a very lanky sophomore, too.
Hagens might have been fouled, no whistle. Ball goes careening out of bounds, and will stay on this Newton end. Ashton, a strong kid. Not wiry, but not thin, but not terribly built and strong either. He's 6'4". He's still just a junior. But, man, does he play tough. Ashton was a man that was driving into the paint a few moments ago and attempting that three. We asked you earlier, who do you think will win this affair? Our first look at some of the early results. Newton out in front. Three ball deep. Off front and back iron. No good for Kavon Eskridge. Looking for his second. Sturdivant the rebound, and he puts it up and in. Kyle Sturdivant, who's been quiet so far, Brandon. He leads the team in scoring per ball game, 17.8. The junior at 6'2", the guard, also gives him 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal and a half. And Sturdivant, alongside Dalvin White, is the guy who's been here for this great run, this recent run. Sturdivant, a 3-year starter. Dalvin White, a 4-year starter. They've got quite the core at Norcross. Again, they played in 7 championship games in the last 13 years.
And if I would have told you at this point Norcross has 24 points, you would say that's pretty much in line. That's not a problem. Kyle Sturdivant only has 2 of those 24 points. You would think that would be the anomaly. Kyle Sturdivant has to get going in this game. Brandon Boston, 10 points, has been on par. Kyle Sturdivant has to get involved in this game, and his basket there was off of a rebound, following shots, doing the little things correct, but he needs to translate that into getting more buckets if Norcross wants to get in this game. They've done a nice job of battling back in this second quarter, but still a long way to go. And if they're going to keep taking those long shots, you're going to need Kyle Sturdivant down low. You're going to need Issa Muhammad to get offensive rebounds because the long three-point attempts are not falling for the most part for Norcross.
Well, you saw a good look there via our interaction on Facebook. We just took a tour around the state, didn't we? The folks watching us from all around, and Marcella watching us in Covington, the home, of course. For those of you maybe not aware, Covington, the home of the Newton Rams. Lafayette chiming in. Moldova. Well, now, welcome to the broadcast, Christy. No good. Second chance, up and in. Dre Butler, 6'6", about 220 some odd pounds, really tough to limit his production.
And you can tell he's a football
bucket.
player the way he just lowered his shoulders. Sturdivant driving to the rim. That's what Kyle Sturdivant needs to do.
Speaking of tough kids, Kyle Sturdivant. We're tied at 26 apiece. Sturdivant, who knocked home the game-winning three, banked it in right at the buzzer in the region championship game for the Norcross Blue Devils. Here he comes. In the paint. He's locked up. And they'll ring up a Ram for a foul. Sounds like they're going to hit Tyrese Brown. There's Tyrese with the foul. That's his first. 4 fouls committed by the Rams. 2 committed by Norcross.
And as we mentioned, Kyle Sturdivant's name in the last time out, he has come alive. 3 points already.
Norcross reclaims the lead, by the way, which they've held throughout the majority of this ball game. Gave away right near the end of the first quarter. A 1-point lead with a Newton offensive trip at 3:40, second quarter. Ashton Hagens left it a little short. Rebound pulled away by Toppin. And Joseph's got some handles, too, as he tries to bring it down the court. Spins away from a defender. Now to the rack. Big hop jump. Gives off to a teammate up and in. Caleb Murphy finishes it off. The sophomore guard at 6'2".
What a series of events from Ashton Hagen dribbling down, breaking the ankles of Kyle Sturdivant to JoJo Toppin showing off his ball handling moves on the other end.
Our first JoJo reference. You broke it out before I did. And now Greg Raymond is breaking out the JoJo reference as well. That's his nickname, Joseph Toppin.
Respect the man for what he wants to be called.
Hey, I'm with you. You don't have to sell me on it.
JoJo Toppin. And a great Euro step and the layoff.
Oh, look at Boston trying to take the ball away from Butler, and he eventually does. Boston got Sturdivant on the top side. He'll try to take it himself off glass, draw a foul, and free throws.
Trey Clark will pick up his second foul, and we've seen spurts of this from Newton, getting very lackadaisical, very lazy with their passes, not protecting the ball. If you're Dre Butler and you're going to keep the ball up high, 2 hands on it, keep your elbows out, maintaining a firm position. And this is more of the game I think that we expected to see. A lot of up and down, a lot of driving, as we see Brandon Boston doing a great job of using his length too, not getting too close, and using those long arms.
A lot of athleticism in this ball game. The over-under on dunks in this ball game has dropped precipitously. Only one time have we seen somebody throw one home in this ball game. My over-under would have been about 5 in the affair.
It's still early.
Grease checking in. Thanks for joining us, Jim. Speaking of Euro step earlier. Try to back him down. Oh, tried to go for the little reverse, toss it up off glass lay-in.
And you know what they call a Euro step in Greece?
I don't.
A step. Toppin throws it home with the tip slam, and that's the importance of boxing out. JoJo Toppin with some elevation.
Brandon, I got to do some play-by-play. You're going to have to hold off on the jokes. Is that like a Royale with cheese? 33-26 at 2:23. Second quarter. Armani Harris, a junior forward at 6'7". Time for our trivia question. During which of these seasons did Norcross not win a GHSA state championship? 7, 2007, 09, 11, or 13? I know the answer. What say you? Remember, Norcross has played in 7 of the last 13 state championship games in the state of Georgia's highest classification. Quite an accomplishment, and they put together a 5-2 record. A 5-2 record in that 7-game appearance stretch.
That just shows the dominance of this Norcross basketball program. A lot of times when we put up those trivia questions, it's what year did they win one?
Right.
We had to put up a trivia question that said, what year did they not win one? Norcross is a factory when it comes to high school basketball in this state.
That's such a great point.
And it's the little things like Eskridge staying with the ball, knocking it away, and giving his team an extra possession. And that's what Jesse McMillan preaches, those little things. And if you're Newton, you were cruising along, you were knocking down shots. Norcross was taking bad shots, and that's what we were saying. Norcross did a lot of bad shot taking in the first quarter. What have they done? They've settled down. They've worked the ball inside, got to the basket, got fouls, finished at the rim, and now Norcross with this advantage and going to the line to shoot 2 more free throws.
Dalvin White with the drive and the dish. Brandon Boston went up to the rack, and he was fouled. Again, Brandon Boston. What kind of player is this kid going to be in a couple of years? Brandon Boston, the man at the line who's been so good in this ball game, been one of the dominant players, now giving his team an 8-point lead. 6'5", and a sophomore, Brandon Boston. 16 points per ball game, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.6 on the steals. That leads his club. And he'll get you a block per ball game as well. 9-point lead for Norcross. All of a sudden, this was a 26-26 ball game. A 9-0 Norcross run. And it could be more here in just a moment. Yeah, we were tied at 26 about 4 minutes ago. Now 35-26. The winner of this one moves on to the state championship game here in the state of Georgia. Coming up next week, it'll be Saturday, March 10th, a week from today, the 8 p.m. ball game, the nightcap, the one that ends the entire week of incredible championship coverage. Kyle Sturdivant knocks down the first free throw. Junior at 6'2", taking another look.
And Juwan Johnson had no choice but to foul. Bad positioning. And a lot of times you're trying to make up for another teammate's poor positioning, and Juwan Johnson was just caught.
Winner of this one will play either Grayson or Meadow Creek in that state championship game. And remember, the network is now your exclusive home for the GHSA Basketball State Championships. All 16 finals will be streamed live on NFHSnetwork.com. So don't worry if you can't make it to the game. You can watch from your computer, your tablet, mobile device, anytime, anywhere, only at NFHSnetwork.com. Grayson and Meadow Creek in the second boys state semifinal coming up tonight here from Buford at 8 p.m. At 8 p.m. And you can watch it live here on NFHS Network Hoops on Facebook. Sturdivant, Kyle, kick out, 3, Eskridge, side iron, no good. And the rebound pulled away by Newton. Still a 9-point ball game. Hagens out of control.
And Hagens too focused on scoring, did not pick up Kevon Eskridge, just sneaking in under him, and a great job by Eskridge. A lot of times when you see somebody like Ashton Hagens barreling down for you, you want to shuffle those feet. Did a great job. You're allowed to hop in place. He did not move. I think what Ashton Hagens was complaining about was the fact that he was hopping up and down. You're allowed to hop in place. He didn't move his feet. He never shuffled his feet. He just went up and down and never left the floor. That is a charge every time.
Now, a lot of coaches will teach you to do that little hop on the front of your feet. That way, when you're ready to get up, if you have to get up, as opposed to staying sedentary, you can do just that. Here's the answer to the trivia question from earlier here on Facebook. Wheeler won the GHSA State Championship back in 2009, snapping a streak of 3 straight titles for the Blue Devils.
And if you're Newton right now, these 41.4 seconds is very critical as to your hopes for the second half. We've seen Ashton Hagans try to drive and score. That's what they're comfortable doing. That's Newton's game. The kid scores 20.1 points a game. He gets a lot of those at the rim. They're not a shooting team. Norcross is doing a good job of using the length of Brandon Boston basically to match up on Ashton Hagans. The thought would have been that Kyle Sturtevant would have matched up on Hagans because of the size and both being that guard position. Brandon Boston's going to grow out of being a guard. He's going to end up being a small forward at the collegiate level, but he's done a great job of using that length to take away passing lanes of Ashton Hagan.
Norcross also done a great job of staying out of foul trouble in this first half with only 4 fouls. Remember, Newton, one of the better all-around team free throw shooting clubs in the state of Georgia, 75% as a team. That's a great number as a team in high school basketball. 11-point ball game.
Hagan's on the bench here to close out this first half.
Can't get him in foul trouble. 3. They could use it. Back iron, no good. Sturtevant the rebound. He's got time, and he's reached. Reach in. Fouled, I beg your pardon, on a reach in, a loose ball foul. I'm going to hit Tyler Glover on that foul. Tyler, who is a supreme defender, a senior guard at 5'8", 5 points, 2 rebounds, and a steal per ball game. Lewis Williams checking in. Junior forward at 6'4". Back iron in the air. One last shot at the horn for Norcross, and it's no good. Well, if Newton's going to pull off the double-double here in Buford and send both their boys and girls teams to the state championship game, the boys will have to do exactly what the girls did. They trailed McEachern in game 1 here today by 16 at the half. The boys trail Norcross by 11 and a half on the NFHS Network and NFHS Network Hoops on Facebook.
Like my Euro step comment?
No, it was hilarious. Back inside the Beaufort City Arena, here in the city of Beaufort, Hall County, north of the Metro Atlanta, or in the North Metro Atlanta area, the Metroplex, the sprawling Metroplex that is now Metro Atlanta, which basically almost reaches over into Alabama for all intents and purposes. Alongside my broadcast partner, Brandon Joseph, I'm Chris Mooneyham. Thanks for joining us on the NFHS Network and for NFHS Network Hoops on Facebook. A 37-26 Norcross lead as we get ready for second half action coming up here in about 4 minutes or so. Really interesting first half. Leading scorers for the Norcross Blue Devils: Brendan Boston at 14, JoJo Toppin with 7, Kyle Sturdivant also logging 7 points, all of which coming in the second quarter, according to Brandon Joseph. Thank you, sir. For the Newton Rams, Dre Butler led scorers at 9, and Armani Harris with 6. So now, if you know the two teams, you ask yourself, wait a minute, you didn't mention Ashton Hagens, nor did you mention Isu Muhammad for either team. Ashton Hagens, 3 points and 2 fouls. That's part of the storyline. We also noticed that Isu Muhammad caught a couple of fouls. We knew that we'd have to watch that storyline. He stayed at 2. He only accrues 4 points, both of which were big storylines in the ball game, and there were a host of other storylines first half that you caught that were very key.
Yeah, it's Norcross sticking with that 3-2 zone, forcing Newton to have to basically abandon their game plan of give the ball to Ashton Hagens, let him cut and pass to score. Norcross has done a great job of making Ashton Hagens have to pass the ball, and Brandon Boston has been the kind of that key guy at that top end of that 3-2 zone, that middleman, getting in front of Ashton Hagens, using his length to force errant passes and use that passing lane.
Time now to take a look at highlights, from the first half.
Yeah, it was Kyle Sturdivant dishing on the inside and JoJo Toppin early for Norcross, and it was Norcross going to the inside, scoring at the rim, a long lay-in from Isa Muhammad, and then Ashton Hagens gets involved. His first basket, his first 2 points of 3 in the first half, but Norcross, again, using that length. See that ability by Brandon Boston, laying it in at the rim, that 6'5" sophomore. And then it was JoJo Toppin, second leading scorer. Coming alive for Newton was Dre Butler, their leading scorer on the inside. Locking down a long 3, Norcross, but that hasn't been their game. They've actually missed more than they made, and that's what kept Newton in the game. But as Norcross started to work inside, getting those inside rebounds, Sturdivant, who came alive in the second quarter, mid-range jumper lays it in, and it's really been all Norcross, and little 360 move by JoJo Toppin, dropping a dime for the assist, and that's how Norcross has gotten this lead, 37-26, as they look for another state championship game berth.
Two teams with championship pedigree. That would surprise some folks that I mentioned that with Newton, but two teams with championship pedigree just on different ends of the historic spectrum. For Newton, who started playing basketball in the early 50s, not a lot of people realize that the Rams were once one of the elite programs in this state, very close to forming a dynasty from 1961 through 72, so 12 seasons. Brandon, the Rams won a state title. They were a 2-time runner-up, reached a semifinal and a quarterfinal 6 times, 64 and 65. Newton, a lot of people don't realize, owned a 42-game winning streak, one of the longest for a boys team in state history. Some native Covington people will tell you that team won nearly 130 straight home games at one point from 59 through 67. Then, of course, they went into a bit of a lull, and now have reached back to becoming one of the better programs in the state of Georgia over the last decade or so. Meanwhile, of course, Norcross started slow in their history, and now over the last 2 decades have been, well, dynastic. Norcross with the opening possession to start second half. If you're just tuning in, they're donning the silver and blue uniforms, the dark uniforms, while Newton in the white-based and blue uniforms. Been pretty much nip and tuck from the start. Norcross owned the lead until 16-14 when Newton took their first lead of the ball game. Butler driving baseline. Good defensive play to get a top of it. Piece of it was Toppin. And now, one more correction. It was Muhammad who got a piece of that ball on Butler. And Sturdivant driving to the rack. He's challenged, and the dunk goes home by Toppin.
JoJo Toppin does a nice job of following the shot and getting up and finishing at the rim.
And Newton took their first lead of the ball game at 16-14. Held that lead until 26 apiece. And then at 26 apiece, well, you see the score on your screen. A 13-0 current run for the Norcross Blue Devils. And Sturdivant to the line, try to add to it.
Bad passing, lazy passing from Dre Butler. Turns the ball over. And Newton, they've gone back to the drawing board a little bit, taking the ball out of the hands of Ashton Higgins as soon as they cross mid-court, but they're having trouble getting the ball back in his hands. If you take a look at JoJo Toppin, this is what the freak athlete does, that UGA commit. If you don't box out, you lend yourself to tons and tons of tip slams.
He just popped up there and grabbed it left hand and put it home with very little effort. Higgins at the top. Drive to the rack, off glass and iron, and in for Ashton Higgins.
Norcross got away from that 3-2 zone, went to a 2-3 zone, allowed Higgins to slice through the middle to get a layup. And if you're Jesse McMillan, it may be par for the course. You may want to change up that zone just so you're not stuck in that same 3-2 zone. Give them different looks. Force them to have to play differently at different times. Still dictating the action, because you know Ashton Higgins is going to get his points somehow, some way. But as we take a look at this replay, he just drives right through the middle. No help on the inside, and Higgins does a great job of scoring.
Boston comes up with a loose ball and walks. Bit of an awkward play there. So Newton scores just a moment ago to end a 15-0 Norcross run. Again, we were tied at 26 apiece at one point. 15 unanswered for Norcross to 41-26, and now Newton finally has punctured the scoreboard. Ashton to the line. I don't have the exact number. I don't know that you do, Brandon, just off the cuff live on the air here. But I think that two-point bucket a moment ago for Higgins ended a drought of about 5 minutes, 6 minutes in a row. I don't know that they had scored inside the last 4 minutes of that second quarter. I know that sounds like an eternity, but I think their last bucket was at about the halfway point of the second quarter. Got 3 in this quarter.
All 3 from Ashton Higgins.
Steal. Butler. Spin. Layup and put back up and in. Butler couldn't finish it, but Juwan Johnson comes flying in to do just that. Really athletic attacker who is 51% from the field so far this year, a senior at 6'3". Now it's a little 5-0 run.
Norcross is doing Newton a favor by slowing it down. Newton's going to go to the full court pressure after every made basket, looks like. And it's going to be a question on, does Newton have the tempo to stay with Norcross, trying to guard them full court? But every time Norcross brings it across half court and slows down the tempo, gives Newton a chance to settle down. Dre Butler putting some of those football skills to use ball hawking, intercept, and try to get to the rack.
Jesse McMillan wisely. He's one of the best head coaches in the state of Georgia, bar none. The gentleman on your screen barking out signals with his salt and pepper hair, something I can identify with. He's a veteran.
Jesse McMillan has been at Norcross for so long. He had one color hair when he started. He has now transitioned to the salt and pepper look.
It happens quick.
And he grows the goatee just to kind of balance it out a little bit.
That's right. I can identify with that, too. You see that silver at his entire goatee at the bottom is silver right there in the chin. I'm headed that way, too. Second timeout. Called for Norcross. Spin move. Higgins scores. Norcross boys trying to do what the ladies did in the first game of the day here. Remember, the Newton ladies trailed by 16 at the half to McEachern, a blue blood, a big-timer, the favorites to win the title. Now, Newton has come back on the boys' side, once trailing by 11 at the half. It's back to 10.
And Ashton Hagans has scored every point for Newton, with the exception of one basket by Jawan Johnson here in this third quarter. And they're just allowing him to drive the lane. Somebody's going to have to get in front, and Brandon Boston only has one foul, but he's going to be that guy that has
my goodness,
Wow.
Brandon Boston with a deep, deep three. And yes, I realized when I was going through that diatribe a moment ago, it was still just a 10-point ball game. They'd only shaved 1 point off of it. But Newton's looked like a different team third quarter. Hagans, back iron. Another shot at it. This time from Trey Clark, and he can't get it to fall. Of course, that three by Boston changes things, doesn't it?
Yeah, kind of kills the momentum that Newton was trying to gather up, and just lazy guarding off the inbounds play. And that's been the most spurts of laziness from Newton has had them in this drought. JoJo Toppin picked up his second foul. And now Muhammad and Toppin
sitting on three. Is that three from Muhammad, who just checked out? Oh, my. Shooter not fouled, but Trey Clark knocks one home. Is that Tyrese Brown? Is that Clark or Brown? I'll beg your pardon. We'll get it straight for you here in just a moment. Sturdivant attacking the rack. He misses the shot. It goes careening out of bounds. Officials conferring, and they will say that Norcross touched it last. Back to a 10-point game. They're going to give that three to Tyrese Brown. Tyrese Brown with the three.
So now you see Boston out on Hagans. A little screen.
Fouled! Hagans with a chance at the three-point play. Ashton Hagans, one of these guys who can look as though his game is off in a certain ball game. He's at 3. He's at 6. You say, well, we're going to the half. He's only got 6 points. You look up at the end of the thing, and he's sitting on 25.
Lack of conversion at the free throw line, and then back the other way.
Oh, my.
Hagans at the rim. And now Newton is coming alive here in this second half.
Folks checking in from all across the land, checking out what is now a 6-point ball game. And maybe fewer. Oh, great job for Tyrese Brown to save it in bounds, and Butler to the line. 46-40 at 3:27.
Up ahead, Ashton Hagans, the 6'4 junior.
Where's he at? To my point earlier about all of a sudden he'll explode and you won't realize where he was at. At the half, we had him at 3 points. Now where is he?
9 points in this third quarter alone, 12 points in the ball game.
1 for 2 trip. 46-41. Well, great players aren't always great. They're just great when they have to be, and Hagan's a player who falls into that mantra.
And you see Newton now backing off of that full court pressure. We talked about it once they went into it.
Boston does it again. My goodness, Brandon Boston, how many threes is that? 4 threes in the ball game now for Brandon Boston, and it pushes back up to an 8-point game. Tyrese tries to answer. Off iron and glass, no good. Put back up, rolls around the back iron, no good. Out of bounds, and the Rams will keep it.
Norcross is really missing Issa Muhammad down below the rim, trying to get rebounds.
Tyrese at the top.
Too many second chance opportunities for Newton.
Now Ashton, try to work around a screen. Squirt into the paint. And they'll blow the play dead, saying that there's a foul. Was Hagans fouled on the floor? Or
Brandon Boston touch foul on the drive.
Oh.
Brandon Boston picks up his second.
Third, my friend. They just changed it to 3. Butler! DeAndre Butler with the slam, and the senior brings us back to 6. Norcross getting into foul trouble here. Third quarter as well. Sturdivant, kick out, deep 3. Eskridge! Well, for as many fouls as they've committed, Norcross, they've made just as many threes. Kevon Eskridge makes his second 3 of the ball game. Higgins tries to answer. Ball loose. Dalvin White pushes. Love watching Dalvin White do this. Sturdivant.
And Sturdivant was the guy that came alive in the second quarter.
Butler also coming alive.
This is the game that we expected to see, this up and down game. Use the athletic ability of both these squads. And it has just opened up here late in the third quarter.
Three-point play completed, 54-46. But you see how quick Norcross can do it. This was down to a 6-point ball game. Then they ballooned it back up to 9. Oh, Dalvin White, mercy. 10-point game.
Dalvin White with his first basket of the game. He's the runt of that guard combo at 5'10".
Back iron no good. Trey Clark this time. If you're Newton, you want to be careful now. Into third quarter play. Tuppen is raked across the face in an old WCW move. He also packed himself at the rim, and he'll go to the line to shoot free throws.
The old Ric Flair eye rake.
The worst of all the rakes.
JoJo Toppin was driving to the lane, and without that foul, this place was about to be brought down. He was tomahawking it.
Fans, don't forget, you can go to the NFHS Network website and type in your hometown school, and you can watch your team all year long. Visit NFHSnetwork.com and follow your school to receive game time notifications. If you have a loved one playing in this championship, or this semifinal ball game, by the way, and a nephew, a grandson, whomever, playing in this semifinal ball game, remember, you can purchase a DVD keepsake copy of today's event by clicking on the blue Get the DVD button directly under your event in the video player, or click on the Buy a DVD button on the top right-hand corner of the NFHS Network website. 12-point ball game, just like that.
Norcross, great adjustment defensively to have help side come.
Eskridge. Side iron, no good. Newton with a much-needed rebound. Under a minute. Higgins. Dish off, and his teammate is fouled. Jawan
Somebody's
Johnson
going to pick
going
up
to the
a
line.
foul here. It's going to be Issa Muhammad.
Oh, my.
Third foul for Muhammad.
Now, they haven't put it up on the big scoreboard yet. There it is. I promise you that when Muhammad went to the bench in that second quarter when we were commenting on him, could have sworn that they put a 3 up on that big scoreboard.
Remember that first foul that they issued, they meant to say 0 White to Ashton Higgins.
Yes.
Probably got charged to Issa Muhammad, and they had to correct it.
That's it. Thank you, my friend.
At the half.
Now it all makes sense. So they got that situation right. Good, good, good.
And for all this coming alive of Newton, Ashton Higgins with 9 points. Dre Butler, they're still down by 10. This is what Norcross does. They get teams out of it early and they just maintain. Norcross is perfectly fine playing this tempo, this up and down tempo, and they've done a good enough job, as Brandon Boston will check back in, of dealing with the full court press when it came and then forcing Newton, by the product of it working, having to get out of it to save their energy, to save their legs for later on in the game.
This Norcross team on such a roll. having laid waste to the McEachern Indians. The proposed state champion, who many people thought could not be beat. Corner three goes. The Norcross Blue Devils on a wild ride of confidence right now. Oh my, that would have counted for Higgins, but it's no good. A 13-point lead for the Norcross Blue Devils. They withstand the run by Newton, who brought it all the way back down to 6 points. Norcross withstands the run and pushes their lead from 46-40. That was the closest point Newton got to, 46-40. Now, 61-48.
Kevon Eskridge twice in this quarter when Norcross was giving points back when Newton got on a run. Clutch three-pointers from Kevon Eskridge to help weather the storm. And Kyle Sturvant, from that point where we said in the second quarter where he only had 2 points, he has also come on, finished the first half with 7 and then 6 in this third quarter. Brandon Boston, 2 big threes. In foul trouble, have to watch that. Norcross fouls are going to be a big key moving forward in this fourth quarter.
As we take a look at some of the highlights from third quarter action.
It's been Ashton Higgins mainly for Newton in this third quarter. 3 points at the half, and what does he do? He comes back out with 9 really to keep his team in it, and it's been a simple philosophy change. Screen, allow Higgins to go around the screen, and it took Norcross all quarter to get that help on that backside. Now that Ashton Higgins knows that help is coming, he's going to do his second favorite thing to do. Pass to open shots, and there should be an open guy at about the wing or the three-point line every time Norcross brings that help.
Kyle Sturdivant fouled, and he'll head to the line. Again, thanks for joining us for fourth quarter action now at the Buford City Arena in North Metro Atlanta. We're live this afternoon and into the evening on the NFHS Network at NFHSnetwork.com. Or perhaps you're joining us for NFHS Network Hoops on Facebook. No matter how you've decided to join us on either website, and no matter whether you've decided to join us on your tablet, laptop, smartphone, thanks for doing just that. Alongside Brandon Joseph, I'm Chris Mooneyham here with a play-by-play story. This is our second of 4 games here in Buford in the state of Georgia's highest classification. We'll have the second ladies semifinal in the state of Georgia's highest classification coming up next, a 6 p.m. tip exclusively on the NFHS Network. That's going to be North Forsyth taking on Westlake. We already know that Newton's Lady Rams are in the state championship game. That's going to be number 4 on Isu Mohammed, so we'll see if that changes the complexity or the complexion of this fourth quarter at 7:25. Coming up at 8 p.m. on both the NFHS Network and NFHS Network Hoops on Facebook, we'll have the second of the boys' state semifinal matchups. That's going to be Grayson and Meadow Creek. Grayson and Meadow Creek. And the winner, of course, will face the winner of this ball game in the championship. Ashton Higgins recently decommitting from the University of Georgia, but said the Bulldogs still in the mix. If he recommits, he'll be the second 5-star recruit brought in under Mark Fox. Who was the first? You know the answer to this one?
I do.
All right.
But I also have a history of ruining trivia questions.
You did that with me earlier this season. Let's not do it again. 65-49, 16-point ball game. Mentioned that Newton trying to pull the double. Get both their boys and girls into the championship game. Armani Harris doing his best on that attempt. Cutting it to a 14-point ball game. Newton's Lady Rams trailed by 16 at the half to McEachern. It'll take a similar comeback in this one.
Kevon Eskridge, back-to-back shots for Norcross, and Newton's just forgetting to close out on Eskridge.
Now back to 68-54 after the 3 ball is knocked down from Tyrese Brown, who answers the 3 of Kevon Eskridge for Norcross, just as you mentioned.
Norcross weathering another storm, and it's really been Kevon Eskridge
It's a 6-point ball game, Brandon, at 46-40. Early third quarter. Since then, a 22. Let me make sure I got my math right here. Yeah, a 22-14 run for Norcross. That's what championship teams do. When they've got a great opponent on the ropes, they keep their foot on the pedal, or I try not to use this phrase too much, keep their foot on their throat. They try to keep them down in the dirt. Yes, indeed, Mark. Al-Farouk Camino.
I still have nightmares of Al-Farouk Camino, Ghani Lawal, and Jordan DeMercy coming into Collins Hill High School, throwing alleys off the backboard, dunking it in-game.
Well, was that the best Norcross team? You talk about the history. I'll tell you another team, or Jody Meeks. I was about to get into that, Mark. Come on, let me do the broadcasting here, brother. Some people believe, including yours truly, that it is possible. I'm not saying they were, but it is possible that the 2005 team for Norcross might have been their best team. That team finished as a state runner-up, 31-1. They lost the state title that year to Wheeler. That team featuring Jody Meeks. Played in the league. Went to Kentucky. Boston. What's that guy's legacy going to be?
Joe Toppin!
Who's jumping to the Toppin of the arena.
You see what you did there? That's nice.
Thank you. You know what they call a Euro step in Europe?
A step.
That's exactly right. Sturdivant. His team in complete and utter control right now. Kyle goes behind the back, gets trapped in the paint, kick out to Eskridge. How good has Kavan been?
Every time they've needed.
Oh, my. How many three-point trips down the court can Kavan Eskridge come up with in this ball game today?
Kavan Eskridge, who didn't start the game for the Blue Devils, he was hitting three-pointers when he needed them to hit three-pointers, and then he found three the hard way to have a three-point opportunity. And Eskridge just finishing every time. They need him to finish.
This could be his fifth, is that right? His fifth three-point trip. Counting three balls, and now this old-fashioned three. 6. Holy smokes. 73-54. Well, barring one of the great comebacks we've seen late in the tournament, late in a ball game, Norcross may be on their way to ending Newton's season. Be a bitter pill to swallow for Ashton Higgins and his Newton Rams.
And the last time these two teams lost in-state to an in-state opponent was on the same day, ironically enough, December the 16th. Newton lost to Mountain View in overtime, a loss that they've avenged, and then Norcross lost to Lakeside, both lost by 1 point.
KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Last five-star player that Mark Fox drew to the Athens campus. I saw Kentavious a good bit in his high school days. Helped lead his team to a semifinal down in Macon. Toppin misses the jam.
Toppin trying really hard to add the exclamation point.
Looked like he was trying real hard to break that portable hoop. That thing is still shaking over there, by the way. Sturdivant in the trees.
And Sturdivant had the option to dish off the top end. Great job of breaking down the defense.
Side iron, no good. Higgins. And now Norcross has it back down underneath the defensive bucket. All Norcross, all night. Sturdivant to the rack, and now the line.
And Kyle Sturdivant really has just come alive. It's been a lot. It's been more Kyle Sturdivant since the end of the second quarter and into the second half than Brandon Boston.
Well, you talk about putting a team away. I'm going to give you some numbers here in just a moment. Free throw good, 77-55. It's a 33-15 Norcross run. 33-15. Since Norcross put together that, or Newton, I beg your pardon, put together that run and cut it to a 6-point ball game.
Third foul will be charged to Ashton Hagens. And for Newton, we said at the top of the broadcast, it had to be somebody else more than Ashton Hagens, and it hasn't really been Ashton Hagens because Norcross done a great job of taking him out of the game.
Who's the MVP of this ball game, folks? We'd love to know your opinion. Let us know who you think deserves to be named game MVP in the comments section below. Isu Muhammad not been as critical to the success of this team as we suspected. Kyle Sturdivant been very good. Brandon Boston's been very good. Kevon Eskridge has been key. Butler off to his teammate. That was Harris that was rejected. Butler going to get another shot at it, and Dre puts it up and in.
And that full course press. Newton needs to start causing turnovers and missed baskets. You're almost at a breaking point here if you're Rick Rasmussen. No more baskets can be allowed if you want to try to make a run.
Barring one of the great comebacks we've ever seen, this would be the fourth consecutive year that Newton will have lost. Well, I speaking too soon. Over the last 3 years, let me put it this way. They've lost to the eventual national state champion over the last 3 years. But even Norcross will certainly be the favorite in the championship game this year.
Even the little things, like Ashton Hagens having to wait for Tyler Glover to come over because Ashton Hagens can't afford to pick up his fourth foul. So now if you're Kyle Sturdivant, just pass it to where Ashton Hagens is. Ashton Hagens will try to move out the way and wait for another defender to come.
Butler slams it home. Back in 15, the Rams were an Elite Eight club. 16, they lost in the semifinals. Westlake beat them, went on to win the title. Last year, lost in the quarters once again, this time to Tift County, and Tift County went on to win the state title. Tift County, by the way, last year winning the state championship over, of course, Norcross.
And let me correct myself. Ashton Hagens actually has 4 fouls. He can't take any more fouls in this game, so Ashton Hagens on the floor, they need him to score, but defensively he's a liability. So if Norcross wants to just keep running this clock down, they probably don't have to put up another shot, get another basket. Just keep passing it at Ashton Hagens, and if he doesn't intercept the pass, if he doesn't cause the turnover, he has to bail out for another defender to come.
And this reminder, no shot clock in Georgia high school basketball. No shot clock.
And for Norcross, this has been a typical Norcross Blue Devils game. It's Newton that has been taken out of their element, and it started early. That first trip down the court where they showed a boxing one with Brandon Boston, I think Ashton Hagens thought, okay, this is what it's going to be. I'm going to be able to slash and drive. Brandon Boston immediately dropped back into a 3-2 zone, and if not for bad shots by Norcross, that first quarter has a totally different dynamic. Newton stays in the first quarter because of bad shots by Norcross, but from there on out, Ashton Hagens has just been stifled.
And they will start to slow it down a bit.
So Hagens tries for the closely guarded. As soon as Sturdivant goes around him, he lets him go.
And Muhammad to the line. Starting to see some of our comments coming in of MVP votes. I like that vote. I think Kevon Eskridge could be the MVP of this thing. Brandon Boston, obviously. Jeff, I can't argue with you on that one. Knocking down those threes at the middle portion of the ball game when they started to pull away. Brandon, of course, at the line right now. Entire team MVP. Well, you know, that's a great point, Horacio, and I'll tell you why. They beat Norcross in the opening round, beat a game Archer team, number 4 team from Region 8. Only beat them by 15 points, but they weren't trying to hammer them. They beat a solid Duluth team by 25 points in round 2. But beginning earlier this week, Norcross really turned it on. Sturdivant to the line. They beat McEachern, a nationally ranked team, an undefeated team. Well, no. McEachern. They beat a nationally ranked team in McEachern by 25 points. Absolutely hammered them throughout. And now after beating McEachern, who many thought was the team that was going to win the state championship, the team that was the best team in the state of Georgia by a 75-55 score. Now they're laying waste to Newton, who a lot of people thought, at least a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, a lot of people had Newton as the second best team in the state. Now it looks like Norcross is sending a message. Free throw good, 80-59. And I have to tell you, on a professional broadcaster level, Brandon, I'm surprised by this score. And I've got all due respect for Norcross, obviously. I thought we were headed for a close ball game. Newton is such a good team. Norcross has taken their game to an entirely new level. That's my point.
Brandon Boston, and this is the reason why I would go as far as saying he's the MVP of this game. He has 21 points so far, but it's what he's done defensively, getting in front of Ashton Hagans and taking away those passing lanes. It is something that doesn't show up in the stat book, but he has forced so many turnovers in this contest because he was in the face of Ashton Hagans, took away his first option, made him go a long way to make a pass, and that pass got tipped and then intercepted by a Norcross teammate. He had the steal on Dre Butler when Dre Butler was just lackadaisically holding the ball above his head. Brandon Boston has done a great job defensively that has really limited what Newton has been able to do, and I think that's been the real key to why they're only at 59 points is the influence of Brandon Boston just making Ashton Hagans have to work and also ultimately not being successful in his game plan.
And Brandon Boston's three was his last three, because he's made a few of them in the ball game. His last three was the one that started the real roll for Norcross in pulling away from Newton. I'll bring it up just one more time. Newton had cut this ball game to 46-40. Deep three, side iron, no good. Headed out of bounds, actually tapped back inbounds, and here's Boston with it. Remember, this was an 11-point game at the half, 37-26. Newton went on a run, third quarter, got it all the way to 46-40. Back to within 6 and possession as Toppin slams it home. But from that moment on, it has turned into a 38-19 run. Now 38-21 run in favor of Norcross. And remember, Norcross has been one of the dominant teams in the state of Georgia in the 7A classification for a long, long time. Brandon fouled and headed to the line.
And for Norcross now, it's just easy, JoJo Toppin. That long step in. He started at the F of Buford, and the next step took him inside the lane. That is an amazing D1 talent coming up, that 3-star heading to Georgia.
In the state of Georgia's highest classification since the turn of the century, since the 2000 season, only 7 programs have won a state title. Think about that number. It's 19 seasons. Only 7 programs have won a state championship in the state of Georgia's highest classification. Both Wheeler and Norcross have won 5 apiece. Jesse McMillan pulling some of his leaders off the court onto the bench and giving them the opportunity to receive a standing ovation and some cheers from the crowd. Right now, I'd love to know what Jesse McMillan is saying to Kyle Sturdivant over on that sideline.
Something to the effect of he's proud of the way Sturdivant battled back. He had a couple of missed shots in the first quarter. Second quarter came alive and really was a key piece in the second half to Norcross stretching it out as they get ready to make another state finals appearance.
Norcross was in the state championship game last year. They fell to Tift County, who won their second title in this decade. Before that, Norcross won the title in 13, beat Hillgrove. Won in 11, beat Milton. Won 3 in a row from 06 through 08. Before that, 2005, lost to Wheeler. 5-2 in 7 championship game appearances. There are only 7 in program history. This has been a Norcross century in the state of Georgia's highest classification. Now they'll go for number 6 in what will be their 8th appearance. And a little bit of history, Brandon. If they're able to win the state championship coming up next week, they'll have the work cut out for them as they take on either Grayson or Meadow Creek in the other half of The GHSA 7A state semifinals, remember, will go for an 8 p.m. tip for NFHS Network Hoops on Facebook. Both Brennan and I will be right back here live on the play-by-play story. If Norcross wins that championship, they then will have the most titles this century, taking the lead over Wheeler.
Just an amazing job done by Norcross in the embrace. Man, as the last two guys from Kevon Eskridge and Brandon Boston by his teammates, the fans coming out here, Norcross, they expect to be here every year. This has really been something that they have built a core and built their community upon, is having this great basketball program.
Dre Butler checks out, gets a big hand from the Newton faithful as he plays his final GHSA high school basketball game. We'll be playing football at UTC coming up next year. Tyrese tries a three. Brown can't hit it. Ball's loose down in the corner. Norcross has it. Now give me one bullet point. One bullet point of what the difference was in this ball game for Norcross. There's a bunch of them, obviously, but if you had to pick out one.
Game plan. They stuck to their offensive game plan. They forced Newton out of their offensive game planning, and that's a true testament to Jesse McMillan. When you break it down to talent and players, the best player on the court, the single best player, may have lied on Newton's side and Ashton Hagen. The best team and the best coach is Norcross, and you have to wake up on the right side of on the bed and have your best day to outcoach Jesse McMillan.
Fans, want to remind you one more time, the NFHS Network is your exclusive home for the GHSA Basketball State Championships. All 16 state finals will be streamed live at NFHSnetwork.com, so don't worry if you can't make it to the game. You can watch from your tablet, your computer, your mobile device, anytime, anywhere, only at NFHSnetwork.com. We'll also have the Wheelchair Division State Championship. Be remiss if I didn't mention that. That'll be Thursday morning, so 17 state championship games taking place next week. Wednesday, Thursday in Macon, Friday and Saturday from the campus of the Georgia Institute of Technology. Next Saturday, a week from tonight at 8 p.m., the Norcross Blue Devils will look for title number 6. They'll take on either Grayson or region foe Meadow Creek. We'll have that ball game coming up for you live tonight on the NFHS Network and NFHS Network Hoops on Facebook. Brandon Boston finishes with 23 points. Kevon Eskridge, the third leading scorer with 17. Kyle Sturdivant with 19. Joseph Toppin, JoJo with 15. And Ashton Hagens, one of the best junior players in America, finishes with 13. That'll do it from the Buford City Arena. For our entire crew, including my broadcast partner, Brandon Joseph, I'm Chris Mooneyham. Thanks for joining us, everybody, for an 86-66 Norcross victory. The Blue Devils back in the state championship game for the 8th time. For the 8th time in the last 14 seasons. Good night, everybody.